Just got back from watching The Rise of Skywalker. Definitely a lot of things we need to talk about. Hey everybody, it's Chainsaw Reacts back once again with another video. This is going to be my non-spoiler review for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. No spoilers, clearly, no spoilers. There's definitely a lot of things we can talk about that doesn't get into spoilers, but once we get into spoilers, which is not going to be in this video, no spoilers in this video, there's definitely a lot of things to talk about with spoilers, but not in this video. Yeah, so I got positives, negatives, some mixed things that I'm definitely going to be discussing throughout this video. But first things first, I'll say this. Overall, I had a pretty good time watching this movie. Pretty solid. I think it was a satisfying conclusion to the sequel trilogy. In terms of concluding all 9 films, the Skywalker saga, I feel a little bit differently about that. Okay, so first things first. I feel like overall this movie should have been longer. Like, way longer. Because there's so much going on in this movie, at times, you need a breather. You need to kind of slow it down a little bit, and this movie is just non-stop. It's like a roller coaster that has no real build-up. It's just constantly going, non-stop, no building up to any craziness. The craziness just keeps happening non-stop. I feel like it should have been in terms of Avengers Endgame territory, 3 hours long. Now, of course, that includes the credits, making it to the 3-hour mark. To get my point, this movie is less than 2.5 hours. I feel like it should have been way longer. There's a lot more stuff they could have done if they would have gotten 15, 20 extra minutes of actual storytelling. We could have gotten a lot more things explained that they kind of just rushed past because we got to keep going because there's so much they're trying to do in this movie. But I'm conflicted on that. Because at times, in terms of the pacing, because it's so fast-paced, there's so much happening, that at times I feel like, okay, I'm fine with the fast pace because there's so much stuff they're doing that we just got to keep going. But other times when something major happens, we have to go past it. We got to keep going. We can't really kind of pause or slow down to kind of go, can we talk more a bit about that? But no, we got to keep moving. And I feel like that's a thing to where there should have been a better balance at slowing down at times and then keeping the fast pace moving. I feel like there should have been more of a balance there, but unfortunately, there isn't. There is one particular thing that happens around the middle of the movie. If I remember correctly, I think it's around the middle of the movie. Can't go into spoilers. That is very interesting, but we kind of brushed past it. I feel like if we would have spent even a minute or two after that talking about this, that would have been really interesting. But unfortunately, we don't. So, kind of conflicted. Let's start off with some of the positives. First things first, Leia. Oh my gosh. They did a great job with Carrie Fisher's unused footage from The Force Awakens in this movie. They talked about nonstop how they were incorporating unused footage from Force Awakens. They found a way to beautifully incorporate her into the movie. It honestly felt like Carrie Fisher shot scenes for this movie because that's how good, in my personal opinion, they handled her in scenes, and I have to applaud them for doing that. It was so emotional at times to see her on screen interacting with other characters. They did a great job there for sure. Also, I do want to mention Lando. Oh my gosh, him coming back on screen. His first little sequence he comes back in on, holy crap. It was such a great moment. I wasn't expecting it, but man, the crowd I was with, we all freaked out. We all applauded and went crazy because it was such a cool moment. I love seeing Lando back in this movie. And then also, as well, seeing the trio, Rey, Finn, and Poe, together and actually going on an adventure together, which they've confirmed that early on at the panel at Star Wars Celebration. It was awesome. It was a great thing to see them actually working together and actually going on a mission together, because I feel like something that I had an issue with in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi is that, yes, in The Force Awakens we're introduced to all of them, but they're not all on an adventure together. But now we actually get it, and I think it was a nice addition for sure to see them on adventure together and see them interacting with each other for their first time, really, all three of them together on this mission. So, some more positives. Number one, Rey actually training. Now, we saw some training in the previous films, but seeing her, like, it feels like the way they were kind of explaining it, and I'm not getting too much spoilers here because we're not getting into spoilers, it felt like she's been doing this for a while in terms of training. She's been training for quite a bit because some time has passed and they've confirmed that. And I really felt that for sure. Also, I felt like the humor in this movie was overall handled better, in my personal opinion. And I feel like some of the new characters they introduced throughout this film, I think, were nice additions. Could this movie have benefited with them just continuing the story and not really introducing these new characters they introduced throughout the film? Sure, the film could have went on without introducing them, but having them a part of it opens the door for future stories down the road, in my personal opinion, post this movie that isn't necessarily tied into the Skywalker saga in a sense. But I really like that as well. And I was mentioning to him my my little Twitter video I did after getting out of the movie, the CG, the special effects, holy crap. There is some great special effects in this movie. It's Star Wars, of course, but it just felt like they really put a lot of time into making them very particular and making them amazing. So I gotta applaud them for that. I really did that. One last thing I'll mention too in the positives in terms of this movie is the fact that the lightsaber sequences, the lightsaber battles, holy crap. There is a lot of them, and also there's a lot of action throughout this movie. And at times, the action was just, it became overwhelming at times, but I was really invested in it, so I really didn't have too much of an issue with a lot of action going on. But the lightsaber battles, I think overall were pretty solid, and I like the fact that they just kept throwing them in. And at times, sure, it could seem it's just a plot convenience. Another lightsaber battle. But I felt like it needed to happen in terms of what they were doing, setting up certain things. So overall, I applaud it because I think the lightsaber fights were pretty damn good. Okay, let's get to now the mixed, where I have some positives and some negatives. We have to talk about Palpatine. Okay, I'm not going to go into spoilers. I really want to, but I'm not going to. Don't worry. I am mixed on Palpatine in this movie. I really wish I could tell you exactly why, but I really can't. But I'll say this. Ian McDiarmid, is that how you pronounce his last name? If not, I butchered it, I'm sorry. Ian was phenomenal, okay? He's freaking fantastic as Palpatine. He's already proven that time and time again. I really enjoyed his performance in this movie and what he's did. Some of the lines he had, oh, so good. But the thing is, after seeing this movie, it is clear that, in my personal opinion, and I'm not going to go into spoilers, it honestly feels like Palpatine was just kind of decided to be put into the mix in this last movie. The whole thing of Palpatine was always in the cards. Palpatine was always going to be in the 9th film. I don't believe it. I really wish I could go into more specifics of why I'm kind of mixed on Palpatine, but what I will say in the positives about it is that, holy crap, it was amazing to see Ian back. But yeah, once we get into spoilers, I will go into the more of a why I feel like it just, all I can really say without getting the specifics is that it just feels like they put him in for fan service, and man, I don't want to say anything more, but Ian, I'm glad you came back for Palpatine, but you can tell it was not planned from the beginning when they set up these 3 films. On the mixed side of things as well is that certain story elements were kind of just happening without really any explanation. You know, whenever there's something big that happens, a big reveal that happens, I just feel like at times, okay, I don't need to know everything about it. We can just kind of have it and then move on. But other times when you drop a bomb or reveal something or something happens, you kind of need a little bit of explanation. A little bit of information would go a long way with that. And at times there are things that are said in this movie, things that happen in this movie, and I was mentioning a little bit earlier, that we just kind of move past because there's so much happening in this movie, it kind of hurts it. So there's some things that are said, some things that are shown. I wish they could have actually explained more or kind of give a little more context and detail, but they don't do that because there's so much going on that they don't want to answer your questions. And I feel like, you know, they're answering questions in this movie. There's questions we have, some are answered, but then there's more questions that are given to us that, so I just feel like I really wish they could have found a better balance at understanding that the audience is gonna be like, what just happened? and there's no real explanation. So I don't know. I just feel like they could have done a better job at kind of honing in on certain things and kind of giving the audience more of an explanation at certain things. Wish I can get into more specifics, but I really can't. Okay, so in terms of negatives, for me personally, there is a big reveal in this movie. Big reveal. I'm not going to say what it is, but it involves a certain character. And everybody's talking about it. It is something that when it is said, I'm like, what in the actual fuck? Like, wait, how exactly? And it's one of those things where it's an interesting revelation, but at the same time, I feel like it was just a last minute decision. It doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel like this was always the plan to do this, to reveal this. And it kind of hit me the wrong way. And it hit me first as a shock, but when the more I think about it, and the more I think about it now as I'm sitting here, I just kind of wish they would have, I don't know, kind of explored it. Because if it was actually a true plan to reveal this information, to reveal this big moment, then it would have been properly set up more efficiently, I think, in the first two films leading up to this one. But that's not the case. I don't know. Another negative, but overall I understand it, is that this movie feels like two movies in one. In terms of JJ trying to put in a little bit of his own version of episode 8, also giving us episode 9 in episode 9. Because The Last Jedi, of course, was not directed or written by J.J. Abrams. It was Rian Johnson. And it feels like, at times, regardless of how you feel about The Last Jedi, it feels like, at times, J.J. Abrams is kind of like, the 8th movie, yeah. Other times, there's acknowledgement. But it just feels like JJ's trying to cram so much, as I've mentioned throughout how there's so much movie in this movie, is that he's trying to cram so much in this movie that realistically it should have been longer, and that's kind of bogging it down. I feel like that there's also too much going on in terms of this story. There's so much they're trying to throw in that if you would have kind of smoothed it out and actually had it a little bit more a simpler story, I think it would have been more effective in my personal opinion. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong. But I'm just giving my personal opinion, and I just feel like they could have just kind of smoothed it down a little bit. But they didn't do that so well. They didn't do that, so. So overall, I feel like The Rise of Skywalker is an enjoyable film with some things that I have questions about and some things I feel mixed about. I definitely want to see it again, and I don't know where I rank it in terms of the sequel trilogy, but I will say that it is definitely enjoyable to watch, and I really had overall a fun time watching the movie. Now, what I mentioned early on, is that it feels like a satisfying conclusion to the sequel trilogy, but not so much in terms of all 9 films. I just feel like it felt like Disney just wanted to kind of wrap it up. And I feel like that wasn't the best decision. I feel like there's definitely more things you could have done, not necessarily in this movie, but more things you could have done within the Skywalker saga to not necessarily close it out with 9 films. You know what I'm saying? But it's because George Lucas had this idea of doing a sequel trilogy at one point, and of course his ideas were not used essentially. So I kind of wish Disney would not have made this the Skywalker saga ending, that this is the end of the Skywalker saga, because there could have been more stuff. So, and realistically, this movie spawned some ideas of videos I definitely want to do to talk about, because it's clear that this trilogy was not planned, and there was no real outline of this trilogy. But I overall feel like this was a satisfying conclusion, like I said, to the sequel trilogy, not so much to the 9 films. And there's things to really love about this movie. There's things to kind of question. There's things to kind of go, ugh. But I feel like JJ was was put into a bad position, and there's so much he had to cover that it was kind of a lose-lose situation, because no matter what, there was something going to be missing, or something that could have been handled better, something that could have been executed better, and that didn't really happen here too well. So in terms of everything, so yeah, The Rise of Skywalker for me is an enjoyable ride, but at times it needs to slow down, and at times it needs to explain more, and at times should be a longer damn movie. So that's my initial thoughts, my non-spoiler thoughts. What did you guys think of this movie? Did you enjoy it? Did you love it? Did you dislike it? Hate it? Whatever thoughts you have, I'm curious to know. Let me know in the comment section below, guys. I'm curious to know your thoughts, and I will talk to you guys soon. Peace out.